This is one of the most horrific, horrible, brutal, senseless attacks that we have seen in a long time.
Police in Texas say a woman was brutally murdered on a property outside of Waco, and the suspect's mother actually walked up on this grisly scene. Now the man believed to have stabbed a woman and beaten her with a concrete block is behind bars. We are speaking with her brother about her life, her legacy, and the resolution that the family is hoping for in this absolutely heartbreaking case. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. 36-year-old Richard Tanner Ozment is locked up in McLennan County, Texas, after a vicious crime, a manhunt on horseback that ended in his capture. And authorities say it all happened within 6 months of Ozment being released from prison on parole. On Saturday, September 21st, deputies responded to a home in an area called China Spring. A woman told the deputies that she had walked out of her home and saw her son, Richard Ozment, near an RV that he had on her property. And the report says that she told the deputies he was, quote, very sweaty, and when she tried to walk around him, he apparently stood in her way. That is when the woman says that she saw a person's foot poking out from behind the RV and discovered a severely wounded woman who police identified as 38-year-old Michaela Brooker, also known as Michaela Covey. When the woman asked her son, "What have you done?" Ozment reportedly replied, "She tried to stab me," seemingly referring to Michaela. McLennan County Sheriff Parnell McNamara recently spoke about some of the details at a news conference.
This is one of the most horrific, horrible, brutal, senseless attacks that we have seen in a long time. It never should have happened. This guy that we believe committed this crime, this horrible, brutal murder, was sentenced to 40 years in 2024. He served approximately 10 years and was paroled out, and then committed this horrible crime. He never should have gotten out, but he did. And so he's been charged with murder, and I just want to thank, like I did before, all the agencies that assisted the McLennan County Sheriff's Office in capturing this low-down scum. And so I want to thank all of these guys standing up here. And I'm not sure what else to say. It's a sad situation. Anytime you see somebody paroled out early like this and then they commit this kind of crime, it's senseless. It didn't have to happen. And this was so brutal. You can only imagine what this young lady went through during this attack.
Now, just to clarify, the sheriff misspoke there because Ozment was sentenced to 40 years in prison in 2014, not 2024. He was paroled earlier this year after approximately 10 years behind bars. And speaking of which, here's what we know about Ozment's criminal history. This is from local reporting. Apparently, he was convicted of aggravated sexual assault at the age of 16, and then 3 years later was arrested on a felony terroristic threat charge. This is according to KWTX. Then, when he was 25, he was arrested for taking photos outside of an elementary school and was charged with failing to register as a sex offender. And during that investigation, Ozment apparently admitted to participating in several burglaries, and so he was sent to prison. And then, of course, as I mentioned, he was released. Now, back to this incredibly alarming situation in China Spring. The relationship between Ozment and Michaela is unclear at this point, but the sheriff says they did in fact know each other. Ozment's mother ran back to her home after finding Michaela. Ozment's father reportedly called 911, and when first responders got there, they saw the suspect allegedly running away from the property. Michaela was flown to a hospital where she died. A manhunt involving multiple Texas agencies got underway around the property, with law enforcement fanning out with a helicopter. There were canines, there was a horseback, and after a 10-hour search, Ozment was spotted only about 100 yards from the RV, neck deep in a tank of water intended for wildlife or livestock.
One of our officers here was the one that found him, Officer Deputy Falcone, and if you want to step up and just kind of explain
We were horseback riding along the tank when I was able to see from his neck area to the top of his head. He was hiding under a tree limb that was on the water. Was able to see when he shook his head and the water splattered. At that moment, I told him to stay still until we got officers, TDC behind him. He tried to submerge his head back in there, told him to get up. I had him at that moment, we had him at gunpoint until TDC was able to surround him along with some of our SWAT members. Once he was fully standing up, TDC was able to give him commands to approach them, and at that moment he was apprehended.
Such a sad case. Such a sad case. And look, I hope you guys know that it is really our privilege to be able to bring you these stories, to bring light to what's going on. And one of the reasons that we're able to keep on doing this is because we have some incredible sponsors, and I want to call out one of our partners in particular right now, Odoo. So this is for all you business owners out there, those of you thinking of starting a business, maybe those of you in sales. So Odoo is a free all-in-one business management software that provides you with a range of applications that helps with the day-to-day of owning a business. In fact, one fantastic Odoo application is their CRM app. So with this application, you can seamlessly, just in a few clicks, create quotations to send sales orders for clients. It totally automates the process, makes it super simple, and look at these quotations, clean, professional. Also, this feature has an internal notes tool which helps keep track of every activity through the sales CRM process, so there's transparency and clarity for your team as well as yourself. So thank you to Odoo for sponsoring Sidebar and giving us access to their platform. And right now, you can click our link odoo.com/LC Sidebar and you can try Odoo for free right now. So Ozment is currently locked up on a $1 million bond. He has been charged with murder and he has not yet entered a plea. And as he sits behind bars, we are now learning more about the victim in this case, Michaela. She was a mom to a 14-year-old who is now reportedly in the care of Michaela's brother, Roy. And that's who I welcome to Sidebar right now. Roy Covey, Michaela's brother. Roy, thank you so much for coming on. And let me just start by saying I am so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for what you and the family are going through. And I know this is a really difficult time, but I appreciate you taking some time to speak with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your condolences.
Let me start off. How are you doing? How's the family doing? Again, it's unimaginable what you guys are going through right now.
I mean, everybody's doing as expected. It's a rough time for everyone, trying to transition to a life without her. It was tragic. Everybody loses somebody, but not in the way that this has happened. So it hits a little harder, I feel.
Yeah, no, of course. And how's Michaela's son doing? My understanding is you and I believe your father are taking care of him right now, right?
Yes, sir. He's still going to school. The town where he goes to school has been super supportive. You can only imagine how it feels to lose your mother. But day by day, I feel like everybody's just taking it day by day, including him.
Does he have an understanding of what happened?
I don't think he knows exactly, the details of everything. He knows that she was murdered. I mean, it's hard to keep that from him. Everybody on the news is talking about it and in the town, but he doesn't know the details. And I don't think anybody really knows the exact details. We have more of an idea of how it happened than we've let him know.
Has that been very tough for you guys, the amount of attention that's being brought to this, or have you also seen an outpouring of support from people online in the community about this?
Very, very tremendous amount of support. It is, everybody wants to reach out and offer their help, offer their, their ear to talk to. Not a whole lot of time just to sit back and grieve, and that's been the hardest part, just to keep the ball rolling with everything that's going on and try to lay her down to rest. But yes, everybody's been very supportive, and it is hard to, I guess, just not be able to go to the store without somebody giving you a hug and wanting to break down right in the convenience store in front of everybody, because I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll get more into the kind of the case about it, but I wanted to also bring you on because I wanted to know a little bit more about Michaela. I think we all do. So many people who watch this never had the chance to meet her. What was Michaela like? What was your relationship like with her? Whatever you can tell us.
So we were a year and 9 months apart. So, of course, growing up, we were each other's best friend and worst enemy. I mean, we went and did everything together, played together, fought each other. I mean, we were siblings. And but I will say, Michaela was always the mother of everybody. We had a lot of cousins growing up that lived close to us, and if we were going out to do something we weren't supposed to, sneaking off to the lake because we grew right up on Lake Whitney, she was always the one that we're gonna get in trouble, we shouldn't do this, and just a motherly figure of everybody. And I feel like she was that way with all our younger cousins, just always trying to take care of somebody. She had the biggest heart, the biggest smile, and the biggest personality you could ever imagine. And she would give a stranger the shirt off her back if she thought it would help them. Just a very loving and caring person in general. And somebody you wanted to have on your side if you needed it.
I imagine the people that might be reaching out to you are people that have personal stories with her and sharing their experiences with her too, and maybe sharing the details about her that you didn't know about, right?
Oh yeah, a lot of people that I've never even met in my life, reaching out and saying how she, touched their life, or was there for a lending ear. Like, if they were going through something, she was always the person to sit down and let you just talk. And, she may not have the advice to give you, but she would dang sure let you just vent and lay it all out and just be a listening ear for sure. So I've had a lot of people just tell me, how they helped her get through hard times in their lives. And that's why they loved her so much.
Sounds like a really special person and also a special mom. What was she like as a mom?
Man, she was always in her kids' corner. She always, even if they weren't good at a sport, or if they lacked in a certain area, she was always supportive, always, pushing them to be better. And she loved them. I mean, just a very supportive mom.
Roy, do you remember the last conversation you had with her, whether it was through text message or on the phone?
I do. She had came to my dad's to visit with my dad, and it wasn't a very long conversation, but I was on my way out the door. She was on her way, in the house, and just a quick hug and I love you. And then that was it.
If you can share, how did you find out what happened?
So I had went to eat dinner with my dad, and we had went into town, and we came back, and we hung out at the house for probably 10-15 minutes, and I just lived right around the corner from him, and I went home and was getting ready to go to bed and go to work the next day, and he had called me and said that the police had called him and wanted to talk to him about Michaela, and he thought maybe something, she'd got in trouble, or something like that, and they wouldn't tell him over the phone, so they wanted to come straight to his house, and we kind of just assumed it wasn't good. And when they showed up, they let us know everything that had happened, and we had been kind of following the story. We had no idea it was our sister, and people were posting it online, the neighborhood talk about everything that was going on, and we didn't give it a whole lot of thought until we figured out it was our, my sister, his daughter.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And talking about this, have you ever heard of this defendant before? Have you ever heard of his name? Have you ever seen him before? Anything like that?
The area we're from, you kind of know everybody. I can't say that I knew who he was or knew anything really personal about him. I had heard his name before, and that was about it. But everybody that that is from where he was from, that I know, haven't really had anything good to say about him from the time he was young till now, and so it baffles me. lot of questions that are unanswered, you know.
Absolutely. Do you know if your sister knew him, had talked with him, had any kind of communication relationship with him whatsoever?
I'm assuming she knew him. She did go to school with him for a short period of time, and so you know, I'm sure she knew him at an adolescent age. And I know she had lost her job, and so she was doing odd and end things. And the story I got was she was helping his mother, you know, clean up around their house and do stuff like that, and that's how. And he was living behind their house in a camper, and that's really the only details I know of their relationship. I don't think they were intimate or in any kind of other relationship like that, but
Yeah.
that's about all I know.
So the reason I wanted to ask you about Michaela, other than the fact that I think we all wanted to get to know what she was like, and unfortunately we're not going to get the opportunity to, is because he has made an allegation that your sister attacked him. And from everything you described, that seems to be the complete opposite of the person that she was. So when you hear that allegation that he was somehow defending himself, what's your reaction to that?
So, you know, I probably know my sister a little better than anybody does, just because we're so close in age. And you know, growing up, and any dispute that me and my sister ever have, she had never been the aggressor on attacking anyone. And the only time I've ever seen her get, you know, aggressive is defending herself. And from what I know, the man is a sex offender who failed to register. He's, you know, robbed churches, tried to burn them down. I mean, just nothing good has been said about him. And so only in my mind, I can think that, you know, if he was on drugs or anything like that, that she was just defending herself. I mean, and he had to be you know, pretty aggressive to get the best of her, because she was a tough person.
Have police and prosecutors been communicating with you about the case? What's been happening, either you or the family in general?
Um, they haven't really said a whole lot. You know, it's being in the process of being investigated, so I'm sure they're not at liberty to tell more than they can. But from what we've heard, you know, that's what it was. He attacked her, and the markings on her body showed that, you know, she was defending herself for sure.
Have they provided, or has anybody provided some sort of explanation to you about, when you look at this defendant's criminal history, he was in prison and he got out on parole, and that's one of the more controversial aspects of this story. Has anybody provided an explanation to you about why he was out?
No, and that's one of the big questions that me and my family and her friends and family have all had, is what could he have said or done that would have allowed them to let him out, being, you know, a violent offender, you know, a sex offender, a predator. I mean, and then he didn't even register like he was supposed to. So why didn't they sweep in and pick him up sooner? You know, and this all could have not happened.
As the case progresses and it moves its way through the criminal process, do you plan on attending the hearings, the different parts of this case? I don't know if prosecutors have asked you to be a part of it in some way, but do you plan to attend the hearings?
And nobody's asked me, but I can tell you that I do seek justice, and any opportunity to be there and to, you know, have her back like she would have had my back, absolutely. If I have the opportunity, or the opportunity arises, I will be there to make sure this doesn't happen to anybody else and he doesn't get out.
Roy, I know this is an incredibly difficult time, and you mentioned the ability to grieve, so I don't want to take too much more of your time. What I do want to do is ask you, if anybody's watching this, how can they help? I know, my understanding is there's a GoFundMe that I believe has been set up. We'll make sure to put that up, but is there anything else that our viewers, our listeners here at Sidebar can do to help you and the family?
You know, the GoFundMe people have been very, very, you know, generous, and donating, and all that money is going straight to her kid. It's, first car, college, any needs that, my dad is retired. He's 70 years old, and he's doing the best he can. And that's why we're helping as well, but reach out and, defend her, just help get justice. I mean, I'm kind of at a loss for words, but she deserved better. She didn't deserve this. And any opportunity for someone to stand up and say this man doesn't need to be back on the streets, or, anything of that sort would be amazing. And prayers. Keep praying for my family. Keep praying for her family, her friends, anybody that was affected by this. And that's about all I can think of.
Well, Roy, look, I hope people who watch this or listen to this will do that and help you and the family in any way they can. On a personal note, I'll just say I'm sending you and the family my best wishes, my condolences. Again, I am so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for what you and the family are going through, and particularly also Michaela's son. I appreciate you coming on and explaining a little bit more about who she was. She sounded like an incredible person. And I'm so sorry that she was taken away at such a young age and taken away from you guys. But we'll do everything we can here to get this story out there, and hopefully people can help you guys. We'll continue to follow what happens in the legal case. But Roy, again, just appreciate the time, sending my best to the family, and wishing you all the best of luck.
Well, we thank you for reaching out and doing what y'all can to, help get justice for her. It means a lot to us.
Roy Covey, thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.